let's get kicked off with our first segment, legal news. So we've got the SCOTUS Supreme Court United States razor wire case. Now, here's the facts on this thing. The Texas law enforcement, National Guard, whatever, who controls our borders in Texas with Mexico, goes and throws a bunch of razor wire, primarily along the Rio Grande. The Biden administration doesn't like it. So they sue the state of Texas. You got to let federal agents remove the razor wire. Why is the razor wire a problem for the Biden administration? I personally think the optics are bad.
Sure.
It's one thing if you've got cartel members with tatted up faces trying to get over the Rio Grande, which, by the way, I don't think they go with the Rio Grande. I think they have tunnels to get the drugs in and all that kind of stuff. The optic of maybe pregnant women and children getting caught in razor wire is kind of a cruelty, inhumane type of thing. Now, I don't know whether that's really happening, but I'm certain that the Biden administration, the Democrats, are alleging that's a possibility. But razor wire might be a good thing for keeping cartel members, might be a bad thing for people that are sympathetic to the immigrants getting caught in some razor, which I get. So what's Texas's argument here? Why do we get to put razor wire down and patrol our borders?
So Texas is allowed to defend its border under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 Constitution.
You've got the United States Constitution, and the idea is the federal government has to do its job and protect the states.
Yes.
That was part of the deal, and our framers ultimately put that in the Constitution.
Which is in Article 4, Section 4.
And then in their wisdom, they figured maybe the federal government might not always protect the states. So in the event the federal government fails to do its job, then the states can take it upon themselves to protect their borders. And that is Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3. And that's the letter that Governor Abbott penned to the Biden administration. And I think he hand-delivered one of them anyway.
He did say
that's
that.
the argument, why we get to do this.
But yeah, and Ron DeSantis apparently sent National Guard members to Texas too, so we'll see exactly what they're going to do, but yeah.
And I heard that was a result of former President Trump basically called on as many governors as possible to send National Guard to support Texas. And I want to say something like 24 governors either have sent or have agreed to send National Guard to Texas to protect our borders. So that's wild in its own right.
It is.
We're in Texas. Most of us in Texas want to protect our borders. The bad news, when I saw the letter, is the letter cited the dissenting opinion that was issued by Justice Scalia in the Arizona case back in 2012. So we're basically, Governor Abbott, our governor, is basically citing and deferring to a losing horse, right? We've lost this one. We're going to take the same horse,
Sure.
losing horse, and ride it again.
And it was so strange to me, of course, I know it's political grandstanding, but just Abbott 100% knows that you can't cite a dissenting opinion as legal precedent.
You can cite a dissenting opinion if you want. It's not very persuasive.
No, it's not.
Now the good news is that was 2012, and the Supreme Court is a lot more conservative now after all of President Trump's 2016 appointment. So we've got that going for us.
So
in the state of Texas.
There's definitely the chance they could just overrule that specific holding. They could, but I don't know. So.
Now, here's some other interesting news. After the Supreme Court, by the way, did not issue a full opinion. It was basically just a ruling, like a 2-sentence ruling. And the Supreme Court said, okay, federal agents, you're allowed to cut away the razor wire. That was the extent of the ruling. So some very smart people in Texas decided that's a very narrow ruling. So just as the federal agents are cutting away the razor wire, we'll send our law enforcement agents just to put it back. So I have this visual of these guys on the Rio Grande. The feds are out there laying down razor wire, and our federal agents are like, I always imagine the Texas Rangers, right? They get some Texas Rangers in cowboy hats, and they're like putting the razor wire up after the feds,
Yeah.
To me, it's the height of ridiculousness where we are. Let's see where this goes. This case is ultimately not going to be the greatest, most interesting border case, I don't think. We'll see if the Supreme Court ends up taking it up for to actually issue a proper opinion or whether they take up another border case or what happens with that. Let's talk about something completely different than Texas borders, which is Apple Watches.
Sure.
Do you have an Apple Watch?
I do have an Apple Watch.
Apple decided they wanted to put a blood oxygen reader, an oximeter in the watch. And the fact you have COVID is perfect for this piece, because when we all first got COVID, like years ago in 2020, we all decided that we needed a bunch of oximeters. And after you get the sniffles, at least I did because I'm a hypochondriac.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, maybe I've got an upper respiratory thing. Where's my oximeter? What's my blood oxygen level? And if I dip below like 97, which is very high, by the way, I'm like, or 90, I'm going to the hospital.
Yep.
That's how we do it. But so Apple decided people wanted these oximeters on the watch. These two watches had oximeters on it, and apparently the patent was owned by another company. So Massimo sues Apple and says, hey, you're violating a patent. Apple probably knows they're violating it. I don't know, but Massimo wants a ton of money for the oximeter, and the two of these companies cannot come to a deal. So it was like on again, off again. Customs or border decided, okay, you can ship them in, you can't ship them in as it stands now. No, if you want Apple Watch with an oximeter, you're not getting one, because they can't figure out the thing. And if you bought one and or it has the oximeter, you can keep it. Don't worry, the patent police are not going to come and take your watch.
Hopefully not.
But if you're looking to buy a new one, until Massimo and Apple do a deal, no dice on